Right, hello everyone, welcome to Britannic, Patroness of the Mediterranean, which is not so much a game, but an interactive museum experience which has just been released on Steam by the makers of Titanic, Honour and Glory. Now, a little while ago, for the kind of anniversary of the Titanic sinking, a few of you might have seen that I did a video discussing the sinking of the Titanic, because although I primarily do games and simulators on this channel, I do have a big soft spot in my my heart for the history of the Titanic, something that's captivated me since I was a child, and that does include the history of the sister ships as well, including the HMHS Britannic, which stands for Her Majesty's Hospital Ship, which was the third of the Olympic class liners, the first being the Olympic, second the Titanic, and the third being the Britannic. It was actually the smallest of the three, but it never actually finished construction as it was intended to be. Instead, World War I broke out, and the ship was converted from its luxury passenger liner experience to being a hospital ship for the troops. So this isn't a game, it is an interactive museum experience, so there's not much in the way of gameplay. It's just a chance to kind of view the ship and to experience the sinking of it, because, you know, the Britannic did sink as well. So I'm going to make two videos on this. Today's video we're going to look at touring the ship, and in the next video we will look into the sinking and what happened. You know, you are strongly encouraged to check out this I'll just say game on Steam. I believe it's £14, and it is available now. And there's a whole load of extra information you can get in the game itself that I won't be covering, and also on Titanic, Honour and Glory's website and YouTube channel. They've got some fantastic videos and documentaries where they go through the sinking of the Britannic, the Titanic, and it's a really great opportunity to learn a lot of stuff that, you know, that we didn't know at the time that a lot of the information that we've come to read was published. You know, they've got a team of historians doing some really amazing stuff. So, like I say, today we're going to do the tour ship, and the tour version is split between two versions. So there's the RMS Britannic, the Royal Mail Ship Britannic, which is how the Britannic probably would have looked had it been completed. I say probably, how it definitely would have looked. I mean, Titanic, Honour and Glory, their attention to detail is phenomenal, as we will come to see. But then there is also the HMHS version, which is how the ship actually was when it sank. So you can see in the background you've got the HMHS Britannic in its white and green Red Cross livery, signifying that it is a hospital ship. One thing that we're not going to be doing is, you've got Robin, which is a little voiceover person telling you what you are viewing at the time. It's great for learning more about the ship, but we aren't going to use it just because it's very much part of the experience, and the only way to truly get that experience is for you to play it yourself. So if you do have it, I strongly encourage you to use Robin, but we won't be using Robin in this one. So we're going to start off with the RMS Britannic, and we're going to go to its forward grand staircase. Now, first thing I'm going to do here, as soon as it loads. Aha, here we go. Right. The one gripe I have with the software is that the settings aren't permanent, so I have to fix my video settings and audio every time I come into this. That's not what we wanted. We wanted this one to come most of the way down. Okay. Yes, just because the organ is quite loud in this one. So what we're about to see as soon as it doesn't fade to black, is the grand staircase of the RMS Britannic, as it, you know, would have looked had it gone into passenger. Had it gone into passenger service. Now, this is incredibly detailed, so my frame rates do chug a bit, even though I've got quite a, you know, my system ain't no spring chicken. So we start here on the boat deck, so we could take this door outside, and you would have the first class gymnasium in there, and then another door which leads you outside into the boat deck. For the purposes of the RMS version, we are in Belfast, which is where the ship was built and would have been launched, well, it was launched from. So yeah, come through here and you've got the elevators that are behind the grand staircase. And yeah, as it says here, so there's lots of information on these little kind of things that are here. So the elevators only went up to A deck in Titanic and Olympic, but in Britannic they come all the way up here, so there's no need to climb those pesky stairs if you don't want to. This door here takes you through into the officers' quarters, providing easy access to the very bow of the ship, with where the bridge is, and also some other features. That other feature specifically would be the wireless telegraph room, which you can access from outside or through there. So yeah, it's got a little piano up here and a little kind of sitting room arrangement going on. We can also come through here, and this is one thing that was not on the Titanic or the Olympic ? I can't quite remember that one. And this is the children's playground. So it tells you here. Yeah, so it was shown in the scenes for A Night to Remember, even though the Titanic never had a children's playroom like this. So you can see you've got toys, you've got a wee crate for putting babies in, lots of nice artwork on the walls, wee rocking horse, and just some more toys, and just a nice open space for children to run about in. I do apologise, this part of the tour is so high detailed that my system is kind of, you know, chugging just a little bit. So what's this? Yeah, so the Honour and Glory clock panel. Ooh, there's a painting here instead. Yeah, okay, so yeah, it was a clock that was here. And yeah, you can see this. There is, I believe it's the Britannic or the Olympic, or both. Because the Olympic was stripped and scrapped. It survived to the end of its career. And a lot of stuff was taken from the Olympic, and can still be found today. A lot of it's found its way into museums where they've kind of like reconstructed how parts of the, well, they usually use it as a Titanic exhibit, but a lot of it comes from the Olympic. And I'm not sure what happened to the stuff from the Britannic, because obviously they were halfway through refitting this ship, well, making this ship as a passenger liner, where they stripped a lot of this out to make it into a hospital ship, and we'll see the differences soon. So the organ that we're hearing in the background, this is the actual organ itself. You can go through here, well, you could go through there, and do organ stuff, yeah. So we're now on to A deck, good and proper, which is the first class accommodation. You got there, you got the first class promenade, and you can come through here into some of the fancy rooms. So yeah, this used to be empty space, but for the Britannic they added some extra rooms. The Britannic is, I think, the smallest of the Olympic class liners, and it featured quite a lot of reworked things, such as the layout of the rooms, not just in terms of making use of space that wasn't previously utilised, but also the White Star Line had expected a change in the demographics of people that would be travelling on the ship. So the ship was split into first class, second class, third class, plus the crew accommodations. And they changed the layout of a lot of things based on what they expected to be a very different demographic. So this, you can see the Deck Promenade out here, and this would lead you to the lounge reading and writing room, which we can't get to because of it's not rendered in this. So this is good, but it isn't quite as comprehensive as the Titanic tour and how the finished Titanic Honor and Glory will be. If you've ever played Titanic: An Adventure Out of Time, this area gets opened up when you're getting your lifeboats and you're to muster to get ready to evacuate. So A deck, you got the elevators again, and you can come through the doors to the rest of the accommodation. Now I don't believe any of the accommodation doors aren't open, and you do move with a wee bit of a gate. So yeah, I'm not going to spend too long in this corridor. You've got a few crew only places. So the thing I never knew about the Titanic until Titanic Honor and Glory actually is there's quite a lot of like wonderful little tiny staircases littered around the Titanic for the crew to quickly get between guest quarters and, you know, the storerooms, the pantries, their own accommodation. It's quite you know, fascinating kind of just how much kind of behind the scenes access there were. Don't believe there's anything up on A deck still, so we'll go back down into B deck, where you got first class. I think this is still all first class accommodation. So you can see here you've got access to the, I don't know what you call them, probably just a B deck promenade. You can come through the front and you've got the first class purser's office, so you'd queue here. And yes, you've got a telephone room, which is interesting. Got another telephone room here. How does one get in here? Is there another? Ah, yes, okay, so yes, the doors are here. And then you would have access to, you know, the first class staterooms, which we'll get a look at in a wee second, or a few minutes rather. And then you got the rest of the B deck accommodation over there. And you can go down again into C deck, where you can see a lot of the furniture that would have made its way into the real life Britannic before it set sail as a passenger ship, would have been moved to its rooms, but sadly that never quite happened. This is the second class purser's lounge. So this is where you oh no, this is the inquiries office, sorry. So this is where you spend a lot of time if you've ever played Titanic: An Adventure Out of Time. This is where the purser tends to live, and you can see you've got, you know, space for reading, writing, and then, you know, desks for answering inquiries, a ship's phone system. Yeah, it's all very detailed. So what I'm gonna do very quickly is I'm gonna go back up to the very top here where we started. The very top where we started, and we're going to see the difference between the RMS Britannic boat deck and the boat deck of, or sorry, the grand staircase of the Britannic RMS versus HMHS. So let's go. And so here we are. This is the grand staircase of the HMHS Britannic. This is the same view as we've just left in the RMS version, and you can see already it almost looks like, you know, you're not even on the same ship anymore. And I guess in a way that's kind of true. So everything was very basic and reconfigured for this ship's use as a hospital ship. So you've still got the big dome up there, but you can see basically literally everything that was not used for accommodation was used for storage. This would have been the access. So you can see the boats. So this is access to the boat deck, and instead of the first class gymnasium, you basically have an empty space here, which, if you read the instructions here, this would have been, or it may have been, a leisure space for army officers. So not explicitly a gymnasium, but still a place for you to, have some space to run about and do exercise, keep that all important fitness up. So the top decks were to be used for staff only, no wounded personnel were up here, on the inside anyway. So yeah, you can see with its white livery, everything's a lot kind of toned down for the hospital ship. And what was the children's playground, we can still go into that, and it's just pure storage. And here we go. Any spaces not used for personnel quarters or wards were devoted to storage. So yeah, you can see all of the just storage racks lining what was the children's playground. One thing that was also done, so the organ's been removed. We'll come to that in a second, I guess. Yeah, there we go. So a lot of the White Star Line fittings were removed for safekeeping during the war, hence why there's no Honour and Glory style clock. It's just a white wall with railings, as it says here. These ornate wooden railings were kept in. Yeah, so there's no organ anymore, and it does survive today, but you can still see the casing of the organ, which is basically what this is here. So the organ would have sat behind this. Everywhere you look, you've got storage, and because space is at a premium, you can see, so the bunks of the soldiers are everywhere. So this is the Deck Promenade, first class promenade, and it is, it's literally just an outdoor ward for the injured. So we can't go down any further than this, so you can see this sign here. It's got out of bounds for patients. So patients were all below here, and this is kind of nurses and officers' quarters up here. Yeah, the photo wasn't taken. Not seen that photo personally, but hey-oh. So you've got the list and things, and once again you can kind of go through it into first the accommodation that's here, and because of its basic design, it wasn't really reworked during the conversion to a hospital ship. Just obviously the colouring of the panels is changed over a bit. So this would lead us outside, and I believe what happened to is the first class lounge unchanged? I'm unsure. It doesn't give us any information. So yeah, you can already see with its conversion to a hospital ship that some areas are completely unaffected, but some have experienced massive shifts in how they look. So yeah, let's look at some accommodations, why not? Alright, here we go. So this is the Regal Suite, which is a first class suite that you would find on B deck on board the RMS Britannic. You can see it's remarkably fancy with its artwork, nice wood doors, furniture everywhere. It's got rooms for days, so you've got a private pantry here, which I believe this would normally be used by servants and things. I don't know why I've not got any. Here we go. Right, yeah. So, Regal Suite is a deluxe parlor suite seen in the Olympic and Titanic classes. Yeah. So there's a lot of information here. Let's not try. But yeah. So this pantry is for the suite occupants only, but it would be used by servants and stewards. Because if we go through to some of the bedrooms, you'll see here that they've kind of got their own washing facilities, a little writing desk here, a nice fancy bed, and double bed for, you know, rather wealthy family traveling to and from places. Come through here. You've got a restroom with a shower, and you know, if you just look at this, I mean, I guess it doesn't actually look all that fancy, but for the time, this is compared to modern standards. But I mean, you know, when you look at some of the ornate marbling. And the fact that there was just a hot water shower in your room, didn't have to share it with anyone outside your room. Oh, this was, you know, height of luxury. And the best part about this kind of thing is you have your own private promenade where you can go out, you can sit, you can just have a look. So we can see Belfast off in the distance here. And while a lot of this stuff was still there, as it were, it was very different when you compare it to the wartime version. And so here we are, we're in the wartime version of the very same room, and the first thing you can see is, oh my god, where is all the furniture? So yeah, so this would still be used by, you know, the higher-ups, the officers of the Royal Army Medical Corps, the RAMC, but as luxury as it would be compared to the other accommodations on the ship, you can see so much has been stripped out. So the pantry is a lot more basic, there's no furnitures in here, some of the other rooms are opened up for accommodation, so you know, you get 2 officers in this room, there's more access corridors about the place. You can come on through. You've got, again, it's a very basic room. There's no writing desk, there's no wash cabinets, just a few little bits for personal storage. But you do have a writing room and a kind of mini lounge for doing whatever you need to do as an officer, and again, all of the you get some fancy perks of the accommodation with some deck chairs, but for the most part, it's just an extra space for storage. So you know, we've got some nice guns over here, and yeah, it's a very, very different feel to the ship from the RMS version. So here we are. This is the, or a Georgian Suite on the RMS Britannic. So this is the passenger liner version as it would have been of this room. And this room you would find on sea deck. So I'd still probably firmly say this is a first class accommodation. However, it's not such a stylish suite as the Regal Suite that we saw above. So you can see it's still got a lot of fancy furniture. But it's just that wee bit more crammed. There's no promenade of your own, and you can come through. You've got, you know, again, bedroom, double bedroom, and it's still very, very nice. But you can see there's just the amount of first class features that you would have has been kind of significantly cut down on. And here we see the Georgian Suite on the HMHS Britannic, and you can see that all of the kind of sitting room furniture that was in this room has been, you know, tossed away, and you've got yourself some accommodation which would be used by higher ranking nurses or army medical corps officers. And you see, slightly rearranged and with a lot less furniture, you've got another you know, you've got more storage. So this room that would only have typically had kind of a double bed and a single bed's been converted to 4 single beds, and a lot of the furniture has just been, you know, removed to make way for additional nurses and officers. So let's look at some of the other areas that aren't accommodation on the Britannic. So in contrast to the previous videos, I'm going to start us off with the HMHS version of this room, and this is the Britannic's swimming room, which, you know, you might think it would have been, you know, drained and used for extra ward storage, given its situation, but actually the swimming room was kept, albeit a lot of the fittings and stuff were removed to keep their bare minimum. So you've still got some showers here, and then you've got all of the little changing rooms where you could get changed from your fancy clothes into your bathing suit, and you could go in and have a little swim. Now, one thing the Titanic and the Olympic also had a swimming pool, and the swimming pool actually had the walkway extended all the way over here and around the outside of the swimming pool as well. But with the Britannic, obviously there was a lot of lessons that had to be learned from the sinking of the Titanic, and one of those was the ship's double hull was significantly increased in height, and for this reason what we're actually seeing here is the inner plates of the double hull. And in order to have room for this to be here, they had to get rid of that walkway. Whereas before, you would have just had the walkway, and then that wall that we see behind it is the outer hull. And yeah, so the swimming pool's still there. It's nice, but it's nothing compared to how it's supposed to look. So let's look at the swimming pool as it should have been, and to kind of build up suspense a little bit, we're starting in the corridor. So this is the base, the grand staircase or the aft grand staircase? God, I can't remember anymore. But yes, anyway, this is the very bottom of the staircase. You can see this is on F deck, and the Turkish bath is through there. So this is where you come in for the swimming pool. You've got the drying room, a few other bits and bobs, and then you turn to see the swimming pool, and this is how it should have looked, with its wonderful marble kind of walls. And like I said at the start of this video, the Britannic was designed to be even more luxurious than the Titanic and the Olympic for its first class passengers. So you can see the double hull has been cleverly hid behind this wonderful marble walling with these, you know, nice little windows up top. You've got the showers here, and then you've got the changing rooms, and you can see rather than just being like a stool behind the curtain, you know, you've got a nice door, you've got a fancy little bench, you know, and it's just got such a nicer feel to it than the HMHS Britannic swimming pool. Let's see, you've got the pipework there replacing the water with the in the swimming pool. So that's everything that this version of that's a sealable door. That's everything that this version of the Britannic has to show in the interior. So we'll now have a look out in the exterior. One thing that I will say is that the Titanic Honor and Glory game, which is coming from the same developers, has so many areas that you can explore, all of them in this level of completely fantastic detail and amazing rendition. Like, look at that, even on the roof, Jesus. And yes, it is a full game, so it is going to take a lot longer for it to be released. But when it does, it's going to blow all of our breaths away. So let's have a look at the exterior of the ship. Alrighty, so just before we move into the exterior of the ship, I actually forgot one little thing here, and this is, I guess, one of the few places that wasn't changed between the RMS and HMHS versions of the Britannic, and this is a look at one of the boiler rooms. So you can see here you've just got, you know, ventilation and escape hatch should you need it. And it's actually quite a good old long way down. So we're going to go all the way down. Thankfully, you go down ladders at warp speed, which is a little bit dizzying actually. But you can see once you start getting down a bit, you get on top of the hood where a lot of the smoke and steam would have been extracted. And I'm actually just going to turn the volume down a little bit because I think it's going to get quite loud. This is a terrifyingly loud room. So yes, so this is the boiler casing here where a lot of the fumes and stuff will get taken up into the funnel and then the steam would get carried through pipes to the engine room where it would be converted into usefulness. So if we actually head down into the boiler room good and proper, I can see that my recording software is having a hissy fit with the volume of the steam, so turn it down even more, I guess. Okay, that's much better. I can hear myself think. So yeah, this is the boiler room. This is where the you know, the men of the place would be shoveling coal into the furnaces here. So each individual boiler had 3 little access ports. Here, you know, here, and here, and then they'd have a tank of water sitting on top, so you could see the steam pressure gauge, the steam chest pressure as it's called, and you have to be careful of it going too high, because certainly, I don't actually know, there was some examples of ships doing it, but certainly like ships and locomotives, there are examples of what's called boiler explosion, where the crewmen have let the steam pressure get too high, and the ships, the containers of the boilers just can't take it. I mean, you know, metal is sturdy and all that, but this is riveted steel. It actually isn't that hard, as it were. So it's quite easy to make it explode by just having too much pressure. So there's a scene, and there's some debate surrounding its authenticity, but if you look at James Cameron's Titanic film, there's a point where it hits, where it's about to hit the iceberg, and they order hard astern on the engines, and you see the firemen pulling some cables down to shut over the boilers. And again, I'm not too sure how authentic that is, but the reason that's been given for why they would do that would be, as the engines come to a stop ahead of reversing, they're not using any power, and if they're not using power but steam is still being generated, then the steam pressure goes up and up and up and could cause a boiler explosion. The only way to stop that would be to slow down the steam generation by sealing over the furnaces. So like, there is a lore friendly kind of explanation for it, just because I mean, if you were stopping an engine you would do that, but when you were just reversing an engine, I don't know if it's a long enough time that you would actually do that. So yeah, so each boiler, so there's 2 faces to each boiler. I can't get round to the other side, so there's another furnace there and the water sits in the middle. So yeah, there's 3 faces, there's 3 fire holes on this side, 3 on the other, and the coal just gets shoveled from these coal containers. These things are huge. Like these coal chutes go like most of the way up the ship. They're huge things. You can go down here and you've got the firemen's. This is the firemen's tunnel. So the firemen were housed in the very bow of the ship. That was their accommodation, and they would go down through the staircase in the forecastle, it's called, and then they would get led to the firemen's tunnel, which would lead them to the boiler rooms, and then they could go up here and they could actually travel between the different boiler rooms. When the Britannic actually sank, the watertight doors here, and between 2 of the boiler rooms actually failed, and that contributed to what was the relatively rapid sinking of the Britannic. Another thing that's different is there's a lot less space here. You see this panel here? This is actually the double hull, and as we talked about in the swimming pool room, that was kind of, yeah, you know, you can see it here. I think if I put this on, no, it's over this side. Yeah, you can see the information about the double hull. So basically, that's what those panels that you're seeing right in front of you are. So yeah. It was after the Titanic disaster, the double hull of the Titanic was raised, so that's what this little bit of plating is here. But yeah, so now we have explored all of the interior explorable areas, so let's head on to the exterior of the Britannic. Right, so here we are. Welcome to the bridge of the HMHS Britannic. So this bridge looks very, very familiar to those people who have seen, the bridge of the Titanic, either from my previous videos or from Titanic Honor and Glory. So this is basically well, I'm not actually too sure what the reason is for having like two separate bridges. I believe, I can't remember. I don't know, I used to think that one of them didn't actually have glass, it was exposed to the elements. It certainly is exposed to the elements, whereas this one you can, shut the door and you've got here. So you do have the telemotor, as it's called. So basically, you turn your telemotor here and it changes the angle of the rudder, allowing you to steer the ship. You've got telephones to the rest of the ship. One thing that's not shown, but I'm sure it should be around, there should be an indicator somewhere of the watertight doors. You've got a deck plan of the Britannic, but yeah, I'm not too sure where it's located. I'm sure it's supposed to be in the bridge, but anyway. You come through into the main bridge here. You've got the telemotor again and another set of compasses, and you've also got the engine controls as well. So this is the port side engine, so you can see its current order, as well as its status. So the way this works is that handle on the top, you pull it, I can't remember if it's forward or backward, but you pull it all the way until it makes a bell noise, which resets the motor, and then you bring it to your desired speed. So if you wanted to put it full forward, you would put it all the way to full forward, and then it would send the signals down the ship to the engine room, and it would ring a bell to say that the system's reset, and ring again, and then this little kind of, I don't have a cursor so I can't point at it, but there's an arrow coming from the middle upwards. It's currently on stop. That would move to full to say that the bridge wants you to go to full speed. You would then do the same thing. You would pull it back or forward and then bring it to full, and the same signal would come back to the bridge, and then our little arrow would move to full to say that the engine room has received our signal and they are enacting full speed. In different boats I've seen that the telemotor, is this a telemotor? I can't remember. It's a telegraph order machine, I believe it's called, but you can use it to show different signals, because really all it is something that sends signals. So you can have those signals mean different things. So sure enough, there is, so this is the one for the, so basically this is the port engine, this is the starboard engine, this, I believe, is... Oh no, hang on. It says this is the starboard engine. Have I got myself muddled? So this is starboard. This is also starboard. Something's wrong here. And this one's port. Okay. Well, I suspect one of these should be the turbine engine. So the Titanic had 3 engines, 2 steam engines and 1 turbine engine in the middle. So it has 3 engine telemotors for that. There is this one, which again is used for sending signals to tugs when you're coming in and out of ports. So you can tell they can tell a tug to let go. They can say it's not clear at the starboard. Hold on, star. You know, there's a whole bunch of things it can do, and this one's hard to see. I'm not sure what this one is. So this one's in red. I wonder if this is the turbine engine. It actually doesn't say on it, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, this is the bridge. We spent a long time talking about the bridge, and we've still got the rest of the ship to look at. So you've got the flying bridge here. The flying bridge was a name given to kind of this little section here where you can kind of come out over the side, and you are in line with the side of the ship, so you can see all the way down it. You've got the front of the ship over there, and then the aft behind us. And so we're going to talk a lot about one of the main, oh, there's not one on this side. One of the main safety features that came out of the sinking of the Titanic was simply the number of lifeboats available. And accommodating lifeboats is actually kind of a messy business. And so one of the things that was done, you can kind of see this giant crane system here. It's called a davit. I don't think there's another name for them. So like this is a big davit, and then you've got the more traditional ones further back, which is how the Titanic was launched from. So you basically have a series of levers. So the davit's in the up position, and you have a series of pulleys and levers that brings the davit so that the boat is brought over the side, and then you can use you can use these ropes to lower the boats into the water. Oh, hello, I accidentally punched a mouse. The first thing you notice is whereas the Titanic only had one lifeboat on the boat deck, each davit has two lifeboats stacked up. So once this boat's lowered into the water, you can bring the davit back, hook up the second lifeboat to it, and put it over the side as well. So whereas the Titanic had, less than 20 lifeboats plus 4 collapsibles, this boat, the Britannic, already has double that. Plus, you've got these huge davits, which are controlled from these little motorized panels here, and they allow the lifeboats to be launched from much more stacked positions. So you can see you've got one boat here, one lifeboat on the davit, and two more here. So this large crane can have 3 lifeboats. You've got lots of compass stations up here. I can't remember if you can get into the crow's nest, but yeah. So yeah, this is basically the very top of the boat deck here. You can see access to funnels, a whole lot of machinery and things. This is an escape hatch to the boiler rooms. One thing that we've passed it a few times now, but this is a military boat. And so it does have the occasional machine gun going around the place. I'm actually not too sure. Not necessarily how accurate it is, because I'm sure it's real, but I know that in order for a hospital ship to be a hospital ship, it has to be unarmed, the same way, like, in combat situations, the Royal Army Medical Corps, for example, they're not allowed to fire their guns except in self-defense. So, I'm not too sure how the guns plays into the rules of that. And certainly there have been times where hospital ships have been attacked because it's been perceived by an enemy naval commander that there was a gun on it, when that may or may not have been the case. So yeah, so you can see that there is loads of lifeboats. So you can see how the davits in this one have been pushed over the side, and this is how you would launch a lifeboat. And yeah, we can see inside some of the storage rooms and things. This is the compass nest, it's called, and the reason that it's kind of perched up like this, obviously it's not a watchtower, because how are you going to see F all of that giant that giant funnel in front of you, but actually because the hull of the Britannic is made of iron and steel, metals that can interfere with a compass, they have this tower raised up off the ground so that you can get a more reliable compass reading than you might be able to do on other parts of the ship. The one thing I love about the attention to detail of this is, even though you can't really see it so well, like if you look into it, you can see the compass point there, and if you look around, you know, you can see southwest. The attention to detail on this is absolutely fantastic. You've got another one of these grates here that leads you down into the engine room, and again you've just got a lot of spare paneling and things here. So you've got a little go between the boat deck, and you can go all the way to the back of the ship. So you see these giant crane davits. This one's storing 4 lifeboats. You know, you'll find 5 lifeboats. Sorry. You'll see these kind of throughout the ship, and that's the main thing here, is that, you know, when you are a ship in war, even a hospital ship, you know, you're going to expect that you might have to sink at some point. So between safety regulations and all of that jazz, the lifeboat complement is just dramatically increased over what the Titanic had, and even further back, you've got lifeboats and collapsible lifeboats ready to be launched. This is the 3rd class staircase here. So if you're a 3rd class passenger, you would take this down to the deck. If this was a passenger ship, 3rd class was just another one of the wards. One thing that I can't remember if the Titanic had these, but certainly the Britannic did. One of them's already launched. We can see it somewhere, I believe. Where is it? Is it gone? I think it might have gone. Alright, let me find the other one. There was 2 motorized lifeboats, or motor launches as they were called. So if I come up this ladder here, you can see you know, this has got like an engine compartment of its own, and there's no rowing on this. It's self-powered with its own little propeller and can move about the place. So you would use this. I mean, lifeboats are traditionally used for escaping a sinking ship, but actually they can be used for other purposes as well. So, like, you know, if you encountered, you know, a vessel that needed something, you would drop the motor launch over the side, and you would, you know, sail it out to the boat, hand whatever they needed over, and then hand it back. You know, just giving a hypothetical situation. You could, and the thing about the davits is, you know, I mean, the lifeboats just hook on. If we head back up to the lifeboats, you know, you can see it's just hooks. So you can, you know, once a lifeboat's launched, you can just recover it again, and you're done. You've not lost anything. So yeah, there you go. So let's head downstairs from the boat deck into the A deck promenade. This is the aft A deck promenade. So you'll have the 2nd class access using the aft grand staircase, which is just through that door here, and you can go further back all the way to the poop deck, as it was called. I'm not sure what the origin of that term is, but hey-o. Yeah, so you can come through here and you can go all the way back, and you've got, well, yeah, let's go down here. So you can go down again into what is the B deck, but this is actually the 3rd class promenade, and you would have access into it from here. So this was basically, in the Britannic, it was a space to give 3rd class passengers, you know, some air that's covered by the you know, from the elements, because they weren't allowed in the 2nd class or 1st class promenades, and then you go down again into the D deck dining halls and accommodations. Got another, you can see the ward. So this is a hospital ship, so this is, you know, this is where some of the wards would be. I believe the passengers were, the 3rd class passengers were allowed in the up on the poop deck. So here, this was apparently specially constructed for the HMHS Britannic, but this is the ship's morgue. So anyone who passed away on board would be taken into this little room here. If you go upstairs, you've got the aft flying bridge. I don't know what the name for it is, but you've actually got a you've actually got another set of controls. So from here, you can control the engines, and you can also send signals and control the steering. And the reason that this is necessary is, you know, this is a huge length of ship, and if you're right at the I mean, I can't even see the bow of the ship. The lifeboats are tiny little specks in the distance, so if you're trying to carefully maneuver this ship into a dock, say, you know, you need to be able to send signals to and from other places on the ship, which can give you the extra visibility that you can't see. So that's after the ship and the third class accommodation. Again, you'll see more not accommodation, but the third class promenade. If we bring ourselves back, I think I've got, yeah, I'll just use the same staircase as I came down actually. And we'll go ahead to the front of the ship. Yeah, okay. So we'll use the boat deck to head to the front of it. You see, so under international law, any ship flying the Red Cross or any vehicle flying the Red Cross should not be attacked because of those regulations. Yeah, so the attention to detailing in this is fantastic. You've got fire hosing, you've got this is officer accommodation in here, so there's doors which lead inside, and then you'll have, you know, the wireless rooms, and then you've got the grand staircase and whatnot in there. As I said, you know, this is a hospital ship, and a lot of space has been converted into ward space. So this is the forward A deck promenade, first class promenade, and as you can see, it is just an outdoor ward, because I believe some of these had glass. So, you know, with the door at the front, you can close it from the elements, and you can see you've got the grand staircase that we've already visited in this tour. And yeah, you would just use this as an extra ward. There's another one on the other side of the A deck promenade. Yeah, so it's just the same on the other side. You can go down again, and again it's just more ward space. Literally anything that could be used to provide more space for the wards is just better. Better for its purpose as a hospital ship. The First World War was, of course, a very horrible war with many millions of casualties from all nations across the world. So, you know, the hospital ships had their work cut out for them. That is absolutely for sure. This is the bow of the ship now. So these are the cargo hatches. These could be opened up, and it's literally a straight hole right the way down into the cargo holds. And these cranes could be used, they could hang over the side to take cargo up off the docks, bring them around, and then drop them down those holes all the way to the cargo hold where they could be sorted. You've then got the anchor equipment over here. Ship had, you know, 2 anchors on each side to help keep the ship still when it's needed, and this is all the controls for them as well. So this is the Britannic. You can see it's got its naval fleet number there, and we'll have a quick look at the outside of the Britannic for a second. Okay, so I wanted to go into free cam to show the exterior of the ship, but there isn't actually a free cam for the daytime version of the HMHS Britannic, so yeet. Splash. Remember, this isn't a game, just an interactive experience, so I'm just, you know, Jesus style across the water. So if we turn around, we can see what I was talking about before. Hang on, let me just go ahead and turn down the splashing. Oh, I forget that master doesn't mean master. Okay, here we go. Yeah, right. So this is the exterior of the Britannic, and you can see it's got its wartime hospital ship livery, which rather than, you know, you see the iconic you know, Titanic red, black, and white. This has red hulled and it white all across with the green stripe and the red crosses to indicate that it is a hospital ship. You can see the ship is well weathered from its wartime service, and the crosses appear everywhere. So I believe these crosses actually light up the ones that are up there. And you've got 3 painted on the side, amidship, the bow, and the aft, and then you've got the upper, front, and rear ones, plus the flag on the main flagpole. And I've never actually I have jumped off before because I wanted to see if you could do it, because gaming stuff. That's the motor launch kind of going away doing its motor launch thing. I didn't realize this was here as such. So I'm not actually sure if we can go inside here. I'm suddenly, no, we can. Okay, fine. I was curious by this, but yeah. So this I believe is, it's just on a pulley, so you can fold this away and you can use this to kind of get things waterside before recovering the motor launch. And even the motor launch has its own little hospital things. So you would use this for like ferrying people to and from other boats and whatnot. But let's look at the differences now between this, the HMHS Britannic, and the exterior of what would have been the RMS Britannic. So here we go. Here is the RMS Britannic as it was originally designed, with its wonderful gold letterings, gold trim, and the red, black, gold, and white livery made famous by the Titanic, the Titanic and Olympic. I'm not sure if the ship ever got as far as being painted in this livery. Before it was converted to a hospital ship, because it was still under construction when it was converted to a hospital ship. And the first thing that you'll notice is the A deck and B deck promenades. They're not wards, they are the actual passenger ship. And one of the major changes that you see here, you see this is just nice wide open space for the Britannic and the passengers to enjoy. So you can see that the sections that are glassed off were kind of walled off along this section here in order to provide an enclosed extra ward space, and then the places that were open to the sea were kind of left as they were. So the main thing, the key difference between the configuration of the the RMS Britannic and the HMHS Britannic is the configuration of the lifeboats. So as you saw, the way that the lifeboats were on deck, it was very messy, and what it did do, it allowed the simultaneous loading of multiple lifeboats, but it looked horrendous, which was actually the exact same argument that the Titanic used for not having double lifeboats, because it was originally supposed to have that configuration that we saw in the HMHS Britannic, where it had the 2 lifeboats stacked together for each of the davits, but that was decided that it was too messy. So instead you can see you've got this wonderfully clear boat deck with 1 davit up here, and you can see you've got the motor launch, one here and another one here, and instead of having many davits dual lined, the original design for the Britannic was simply just to have these big davits hella stacked with lifeboats. So you see you had like the davits that only had like 3-4 lifeboats. This one's got 2 here, 3 here, plus ones in the middle. And so it had lifeboats for days. This is kind of see down into one of the passages you can take in and out of the boiler room. And so yeah, rather than having many davits with a couple of lifeboats, it just had many or a good few of these huge davits that were just stacked. So whereas in the HMHS Britannic there was only the 1 davit with 2 lifeboats at the back, there's 2 cranes And I mean, the amount of lifeboats here, you know, you've got what, 7 lifeboats on each of these davits. So it still probably had about the same number of lifeboats. Just the only difference is their layout on the ship. And so the benefit of this is it looks much neater than having the lifeboats stacked everywhere. The downside is if something did go wrong, then you can really only lower one lifeboat at a time with these davits. So you've gone from having, you know, like 20 odd davits, 20 odd lifeboats that you could launch at the same time to just 2, 4, 6, 8 well, and there's 2 of the davits there, so you could basically load 10 lifeboats at a time rather than 20 plus. So probably not so bad for a situation like the Titanic, where it took over 2 hours for the Titanic to sink, but in a wartime situation where if you put 3 torpedoes into a passenger liner, it will go down like an absolute stone. You know, it's not so great for that, which is why these differences do exist. But this is a civilian look at the Britannic. So yeah, this is the RMS Britannic versus the HMS Britannic, how the ship could have looked versus how the ship actually did look. And this has just been a tour of everything that is available to us. In the next video, well, it's time to check out the sinking and what happened as it went down. So, thank you very much for watching this video of the tour of the RMS and the HMHS Britannic, and I'll see you next time. Bye.